Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmed Farooq, and I am the Ambassador of Pakistan to Denmark. I would like to welcome all the participants to the fourth in the series of 5 tech talks which the Embassy of Pakistan is organizing. The objective of these tech talks is to share knowledge and make the participants aware of the cutting edge work which is being done in the information technology sector in Pakistan. These talks are being sponsored by the top Pakistani IT companies which are doing business both locally and internationally. The first talk that we organized in the month of June was focused on AI and machine learning in knowledge discovery and regulatory compliance. The second talk discussed the important issue of software quality assurance in 2021 and beyond. Our third talk was focused on the subject of fintech, where we presented the topic of designing scalable systems for financial sector. The videos of these tech talks are available on the YouTube page of the Pakistan Embassy. The topic of the fourth tech talk today is innovation models for corporate digital transformation. Digital transformation, as you are aware, entails considering how products, processes, and organizations can be changed through the use of new digital technologies. Digital transformation can be seen as a socio-technical program. Adopting digital technology can bring benefits to a business. However, some company cultures can struggle with the changes required by digital transformation. Transforming an organization is very challenging and filled with pitfalls. The talk today will cover the key differences between the winners and losers in pursuit of digital transformation. What are the key ingredients of this journey and how they come together in a model to achieve success? We will take a deep dive into the culture of the model, how starting small and the organization's complete ownership of this journey is critical early on. Our presenter today is Mr. Waleed Rayas, Senior Vice President of DPL, a Pakistani IT company, which for over 13 years has been at the forefront of delivering cutting-edge IT services. Mr. Rayas has 20 years of experience in software project management, account management, and operations management. He has successfully managed numerous projects of over $2 million distributed globally. He is an expert of building and managing offshore tech teams for corporates, SMEs, and startups in logistics, healthcare, automotive, and smart homes, etc. Mr. Rayas has a decade-long experience of working with entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley to Stockholm, consulting them in IT and operations, facilitating from inception to growth and exit. Recently, one of the startups that he worked with, iApartments, was valued at $100 million. Now, very briefly about the IT landscape in Pakistan. Pakistan has over 2,000 IT companies and call centers that are providing all key services in the areas of CRM software, data warehousing, product design, developing, and testing. More than 300,000 IT professionals who are English speaking and have expertise in the current and emerging IT products and technologies are working in these companies. More than 20,000 fresh IT graduates are joining our IT sector every year. There is a rising startup culture in the country, and Pakistan has been ranked as number 3 in the world of freelance by Oxford Analytica. Some housekeeping announcements. Mr. Rayas's presentation will be for around 45 minutes. You can ask your questions at the end of the presentation by raising your hands, or you could post your questions in the chat section and we will take them up. Your mics will be muted at the beginning and you can unmute them when you have to ask a question. This webinar is being live streamed on the Embassy's Facebook page and its recording will be available, as I mentioned, on our YouTube page. So let's begin. Over to you, Mr. Waleed Rayas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you very much for this lovely opportunity. And I must congratulate you for the work that you're doing for the benefit of the business industry in Pakistan and Pakistan at large. Thank you very much for all the participants. And today's topic, as the Ambassador has mentioned, is about innovation model for corporate digital transformation. So let's get on to this journey. I'll quickly skip this because Mr. Ambassador has already, mentioned my portfolio and my experience in the IT industry in Pakistan and the type of work that I've been doing with multinational and international companies across the globe. DPL as a company is uniquely positioned in Islamabad. We have been working for the last 17 odd years, and our forte has been through the digital transformation that we have done back in 2012, pretty much between 2012 and 2010. We started our journey well before that in 2004 when we were working with multinationals across the US and Europe. And what we quickly found was that the work that we were trying to do, or the type of work that was expected out of us through these companies and clients, was not possible if we were not transforming our own company. So by 2012, we were clear that we needed to remodel the entire company towards something which could be an attractive proposition for companies working out of Silicon Valley and Stockholm. So we embarked upon our own journey of transformation and transformed the entire company towards Agile organization and adopted Scrum as a framework. We so one of our fortes and the areas of focus that we developed for ourselves was that we targeted the top 5% talent within Pakistan. Through the culture that we developed within the company, we focused on not only just producing engineers for these clients, but we modeled our company towards innovation thinking. We also created state of the art Agile and Scrum practices within the company so that we could attract these clients and these companies. What it did to us as a company, and the model that we were able to create allowed us to create faster time to market. We were able to create models or produce softwares which could be termed as MVPs or could be delivered faster to the market. And the entire company basically encapsulates end-to-end delivery capabilities and skill sets, which we'll probably further talk down in the presentation. We term ourselves as an innovation as a service company. By that we mean that we don't just provide acqui-hire type of services to our clients, although there is a probable model within the business that we do. But our forte is creating a process where we work with companies and clients from the start of idea through product design, user testing, user experience, and then software development. And in that we take full responsibility, and the model actually that we have created and the type of resource pool that we have created creates value addition across the entire delivery, technology delivery, not just one specific area of the software development lifecycle. And the overall quality of the product that we are able to produce through this process is high quality. And the focus of the entire model that we have developed is on the client winning at the end of the day, not just creating softwares or a piece of code that the client can utilize at the end of the day. Now, quickly, if we take one monkey out of our back, which is the way the industry is floating ideas between digitalization and digital transformation, it's important that we take this question out of the out of the way in this presentation, and then we can really focus on the digital model that we are going to be able to present through our experience. Digitalization is important to understand so that we don't confuse these two terms. Digitalization is more about a standard approach towards the digital existing processes of a certain department or a certain area within the company, and then digitizing them and creating or focusing on efficiency within those particular departments. Now, these are obviously these transformations, you can, or we can term them as transformations. These transformations are more siloed. They are not, they don't eventually transform the entire organization. For instance, if you can work towards training and development and improve the processes of training and development, let's say in human resource, or the customer service department can digitize itself or digitalize itself in retail, but it will not have an impact across the organization, or it will not transform the organization towards a digital transformation journey. It would be more siloed. It will not have impacts across the entire organization. And that's what has been mostly been done for the last many years before we saw technologies like 4IR enabling companies to digital transform themselves, which we'll talk about later in this presentation. Now, as we discussed digitalization before, in digital transformation, this is the type of approach that is happening and what is designed around digital transformation. It is more about the customer journey, which identified in the, let's say, in the time of the digital strategy, which transforms all the specific departments within the company, which that particular digital that customer journey encapsulates. For instance, if you take an example of, let's say, an oil company who wants to improve the customer journey of fueling a car. Now, that particular journey encapsulates or will connect the training and development department, the customer service in retail, the fuel pricing in finance, and the customer satisfaction area in marketing. Now, all these particular departments is part of that journey, which has to be transformed for the digital transformation to take effect. So that's the main differentiation between digitalization and digital transformation, where digital transformation is transforming all the cross-functional departments along the way when a particular customer journey is being addressed. So so focus is on what rather than how. Like the focus is in customer journey, like what is the customer journey that the company is trying to address, and all the siloed departments are focused on singular journey, rather having in digitalization where the solo departments are being focused and then transformed individually. I'll start the journey with the best way, which I think is to help the audience understand what digital transformation is. It's the best way we can explain digital transformation is through examples. And one of the most amazing examples that we have seen through our own journey in DPL is the case study or the work that we have done with iApartments. Back in 2019, when I was in US, I got the opportunity to meet an entrepreneur out of Florida. He has previous experience of working with janitorial companies in the multifamily apartment buildings, and he had previously sold a few of his janitorial companies to these different types of businesses. And he as his work was deeply ingrained in his experience working with multifamily businesses in America, he identified an opportunity that these businesses have been stalled for generations, where the types of innovation and transformation in multifamily businesses or multifamily buildings in America is almost negligible. Where if you enter an apartment in America, you hardly see an innovation or hardly see a change if you were living in apartments, let's say for decades. He thought he saw an opportunity of using IoT, Internet of Things, or the 4IR Internet of Things technology to revolutionize the way an apartment owner or a resident of an apartment can experience an apartment. So he quickly embarked on this journey, and he clearly had an idea, and he approached us and he said, okay, what I want to do is to be able to create a business model around apartments and allow the residents to convert their apartments into smart apartments. Now, the technology was already there. That's a very, very key element of this particular disruption that this entrepreneur was able to do. So he approached us, and we quickly created or offered him the model that we are going to be discussing a little later on. We developed an agile team internally in DPL. We offered him that we will develop an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. Most of you probably are familiar with this term, where you're able to create a certain software in a matter of weeks versus creating a production ready software in a matter of probably months and years. So we created an MVP using Raspberry Pi, one of the most amazing kits out there to present an idea in IoT. So in 2 months, we were able to create an MVP for him. We set up a team of probably like 5, 6 engineers headed by a product owner and Scrum Master and QA and designers and IoT engineers. And this team sitting out of Islamabad collaborated with teams in Tampa, and we also collaborated with teams which was in Shenzhen, which is the Silicon Valley of hardware. And we were communicating, collaborating with Chinese, with Americans, and Pakistanis out of Islamabad. And moving on, this company in 2 years right now is valued at $100 million. They have been fueled by. They have a current team of almost 25 with us, with multiple Scrum teams in complete Agile setup, with collaboration still happening between Shenzhen, Tampa, and Islamabad. And they have acquired and they have gone out and installed this smart home solution in almost 1,500 units, which is a flat, and they are planning to install this unit, this kit as they call it, in almost 40,000 units across America. One of the biggest customers that they have acquired along this journey is Greystar, Mark Taylor, Marion, UBS. All these property giants across America are coming on board and adopting this technology along the way. This is the type of solution that we were able to create for them. It was again possible through one of the technologies that was available at that time, 4IR. In 4IR, we were able to use IoT as a prime technology to be able to develop this entire solution. The idea is that the kit which is installed in an apartment is you have a hub and you have a mobile phone. Using the mobile, you can control different devices within the apartment. You are able to lock, unlock doors. You are able to turn on and off different types of switches, bulbs, different appliances within the apartment. You are able to install water sensors within the apartment, which can help you, from water drainages and etc. It creates alarm and shows up on your mobile phone. And all this technology was developed in IoT, in AWS IoT Core, which is one of the top technologies for developing IoT solutions out there. And the central hub, as I explained, as in the diagram which shows, controls all the edge devices within that apartment. And all the devices that are connected to the hub are controlled through Z-Wave, and the MQTT protocol is used to connect that hub to the cloud, which actually connects the mobile and everything else. These are some of the recent examples of how they have been able to present this solution across America. And some pictures show they are installing this kit within different apartments. And they recently acquired a big booth in one of the big conferences of smart homes in America. This was one of the classic examples where an entrepreneur starts his journey and looks at a certain vertical and decides to disrupt that particular vertical with cutting edge technologies. And along the way, he identified that he needed to partner with a technology company such as us and make that realization possible for himself. Another case study that we believe is a very important, a journey that we have done ourselves is a case study for Alif Elan, one of the INGOs out of Pakistan back in 2018 when the general elections were happening. They had a funding, quite a substantial amount of funding from DFID to create awareness in Pakistan for education before the elections. So they were thinking of using that funding and use technology to reach out to the voters and the audience. So initially, what they thought of was to be able to do it using a website where they can draw traffic into and create type of awareness and then propel that awareness around the elections. But they came to us and we sat down with them and we did a few rounds of ideation with them. And through that ideation, we propose a solution where we told them to go social, mobile, and local. And we propose a solution to create an app, a smart app, and promote that app as an educational app where they can create awareness and allow the audience to actually push issues out of their localities across Pakistan. So this was an amazing journey for them, where we were able to give them solution completely out of the box, and this app, as you see on the screen, was created and it was promoted before the general elections, and it was promoted through a lot of marketing that they did. And when it was launched, the solution the result was that it was one of the top trending apps in Pakistan. It was downloaded more than 50,000 times. It created almost 8,000 educational issues across Pakistan, from even remotest areas of Sindh, where people were able to capture the situation of education, the situation of the problems of schools around their localities, capture it through their phone and upload it onto the phone and share it with the global audience that we were capturing. And this was documented in different types of media outlets in Pakistan. It was as I said, top trending within Pakistan as a sector of at the time of elections. Now, it's important to present the case for digital transformation and the case of the type of technologies that are enabling digital transformation for different companies out there. According to PwC, AI is expected to contribute almost $15.7 trillion of global economy by 2030. That AI is termed as the #1 technology for generating global economy possibilities and opportunities in the next few years. IoT is termed as the #2 technology out of 4IR, and blockchain is termed as the #3 probable technology which can create opportunities for businesses to transform themselves. To embark upon this model that we are going to be looking at moving on, it is important that to understand that it starts by the business or the corporation to create a digital strategy. It's critical that the digital strategy contributes towards the model that is going to be discussed later. Without the digital strategy or the buy-ins of the leaders of the company, it is impossible for this journey to be realized or implemented. The few key areas for the digital strategy is to look at the business where it sees that the disruption is most needed. That's again the question of the leadership understanding and looking at either operational excellence is something that they should be looking at, or customer engagement. Again, customer engagement is where all the customer journeys can be identified, and the various products and services that the company has. So looking at where the disruption is most needed. Command and control the change, which means that the leadership identifies a particular individual within the journey and provides the destiny of the entire digital transformation to that particular individual, which is mostly termed as a chief digital officer within the digital transformation journey. And obviously that individual is responsible for generating new business opportunities, revenue streams, and customer services from the adoption of digital technologies. That's the objective of the chief digital officer. And obviously looking at and ensuring in the digital strategy that empowering the people is one of the key areas which enables the digital strategy to be successful or unsuccessful. And tracking and reporting system is critical to be able to enable the entire journey to show the value capture models or organization health assessments, benchmarks that the tracking and reporting can show, the visual management and planning aids how the transformation is happening within the organization. And for instance, even looking at advanced initiative tracking tools that can be sorted by owner, department's delivery status, and other criteria, allowing users to understand at a glance the progress of all initiatives. So it is important that if the digital strategy is executed, is at play right now, how it's performing. Do we have dashboards? Does the leadership have dashboards to look at how the entire journey is happening and how it's succeeding towards its goal, or if it's not succeeding? Either way, the tracking and reporting system can highlight all that. It's important at a high level to understand a few key elements of the digital transformation. It starts this idea of digital transformation has really taken its life after having the probable technologies or the possibilities of having these technologies, the next generation technologies at our hands, be it AI, blockchain, data or data transformation abilities, and IoT and others. The lab obviously is a model that we'll look at later, using transformative technologies with lab and having an agile mindset, which is critical to for the entire journey to happen. If we think about one of the major reasons for failures within digital transformation experiences is that the agile mindset was not there and not adopted by the organizations. Training and coaching obviously happens as the digital lab starts creating some positive results, some values that are being created through the digital lab. Then the training and coaching for agile mindset and even adopting the successes of the digital lab will start happening. And eventually the cultural transformation is obviously the biggest roadblock in making sure the digital transformation happens across the organization. That's where the digital lab also is a fundamental area which allows the cultural transformation to happen, because you are able to do a digital lab concept in a certain silo, in a certain space where it's not being affected by the current corporate culture of the company. Now let's present the idea of how we look at it, how we look at the digital lab or the model that we are supposed to discuss today or look at. The digital model is mostly coined through our experience, and the way different companies, corporations have been able to perform this digital transformation for different companies is through the model that we are looking at right now. There are two key areas for the digital lab. Now think of this digital lab as a separate entity which is not being created, which is separate to, let's say, a corporation. Let's say an example of an oil company who wants to do a level of digital transformation and look at how it can convert its fuel business, fueling a car business, and transform it itself. Now, if you think about that, um, the the digital lab will be created, which will be a physical an area, let's say, within the corporation dedicated to this model, and it will not be integrated within the company itself to the level where it's intertwined, or the rules and the regulations of that company is overpowering this particular model. So the structure, so there are two parts to this. One is the structure and process. The other is the culture. The structure and process includes that there are cross-functional business teams which are part of the journey, as well as they create, and some part of that functional team creates a DT or a digital transformation council. The digital transformation council is responsible for ensuring that there are some individual who are able to make key decisions, let's say funding for that particular lab. For instance, they can define some rules or processes for that lab to enable itself. And obviously it controls and looks at the roadmap of the entire lab as well. What that funding will do for the lab, how much or how many resources it needs, what types of resources it needs, and what level of autonomous experience it needs, so that it can function by itself and not be bogged down by the bureaucracy of the company that it is supposed to function for. And then the other structure of this lab is having customer journeys. That's one of the critical areas where the lab is supposed to, the model encapsulates that these cross-functional business teams look at where is the maximum ROI, or where is the biggest value if the transformation happens. Like, is it going to be around fueling, let's say, a car? Is it around lubricants that the company is selling, or be it any other customer journey that the company has as a business model where the transformation can happen? Agile is super important, where the company is enabling its the model around Agile. The structure of the company is defined. The lab's structure basically is defined around Agile. We'll talk about it a little later as well. And then 4IR, enabling the structure and the process around 4IR, so that fourth industrial revolution technologies are enabling this model to use a cutting edge technology and think out of the box as far as solutions are concerned. Culture is honestly speaking, it's like a make or break, where if you don't integrate the right culture for this lab or this model, the results are not going to be there. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what culture means and how important and what are the key ingredients of this culture a little later on. So this is the type of a little more elaboration towards the structure as we speak. Cross-functional teams from different business units, and some part of it creating a digital council on the support of the leadership. Customer journeys where problem or opportunities are being identified. Customer focused, internal or external, where the customer journey or the business value where the customer journey is being identified. Selected through ROIs, which means that all the customer journeys which are being encapsulated, which are being identified, needs to have a good ROI, so that it's a probability for the digital lab to work upon. And looking at the entire customer journey through end-to-end customer interaction, not just looking at a certain siloed department where the impact of customer journey is going to be. And capitalizing on the next generation technologies as we speak earlier. And then also looking at a company or a vendor or a partner like DPL or other technology companies out there who can help corporations embark on a digital transformation journey. As I've showed you or shared an example with you with iApartments and with Alif Elan. this is one of the ways the digital transformation in the corporate world is happening, where they reach out to technology companies who have those ingredients built in them, all these types of ingredients, to be able to look at look at customer journeys, use technologies like for IR, have the agile mindset, and then be able to connect with these corporations and create digital transformation experiences for them. This is one of the examples I wanted to share with you in terms of moving towards a customer journey experience of customer journey. We did this workshop of design sprints with one of local companies, oil giants in Pakistan. And design sprints is one of the best ways to be able to help the company identify customer journeys, and identify customer journeys with respect to, as I explained earlier, with respect to ROI and the best value that they can identify, or the best problem that they can identify that can create the ROI for them. So in this design sprint experience, the participants are able to answer critical business questions through design, prototyping, and testing ideas with customers. With this design sprint, working in a sprint of, let's say, a single week, they're able to shortcut endless debate cycles and compress months of time into a single week, where they are able to connect with clients, their clients or their customers, and you within a week be able to identify is their solution going to work or not. This 1 week sprint, where the cross departmental leaders connect with the help of a technology company like us, help them envision what this sprint actually works like a superpower for them. They can fast forward into future to see your finished product and customer reaction before making any expensive commitments, which sometimes even means that without even writing a line of code, they're able to see that if their idea is going to be able to create the type of ROI they were thinking with customers or not. So it's a very powerful technology or a method to be able to identify um, customer journeys in a matter of week. It's important to look at how industry is looking at a 4IR, and how 4IR is driving a new era of customer products and services relationship, uh, despite the sort of security concerns that we are looking at right now with hacking and data theft and privacy, etc. With PwC says that almost 81% of these technologies, 4IR technologies, right now increasing the value of companies' products and services. 79% think that enhancing customer experience is a clear possibility, and 72% think that increasing customer loyalty is definitely on the cards using the right technology that they have right now. And the way they think right now through these the technologies that are available in the market is that they think that focusing on the customer first is the crucial part in using these technologies. And as I explained earlier, technologies like automation, AI and data, robotics, IoT, and blockchain is enabling all these different businesses and companies to be able to look at these opportunities in the market and be able to bring the customer back into focus and use this technology to make manifold, different types of changes and transformations within the business. For instance, the manufacturers of 4IR enabled products for industrial applications like smart building systems, water management, or video security surveillance may even develop versions applicable to residential use, which is becoming common, where surveillance cameras were used early on for surveilling different types of security agencies, but now they are part of our daily lives. As we have cameras at home, and we can actually use our mobile phones to look at how uh, to look and judge security. Even alerts are coming through different types of cameras where you can see alerts showing if there is a penetration within your homes or security areas. it's important to understand how agile is one of the key areas within this journey, and how it is super important um, uh, to to understand how agile actually is a sticking thing which connects everything as far as this digital transformation journey is concerned. um, what agile does is actually it creates a purpose and vision for or you can call it a north star, embodied across the organization. The organize by north star as an example, what agile organizations are supposed to do, that they are intensely customer focused and seek to meet diverse needs across the entire customer life cycle. They are designed like that to be able to enable it. Like for instance, the most obvious examples in our lifetimes is how Uber is customer focused, so amazingly customer focused. Airbnb is amazingly customer focused. Amazon in its earlier time was super customer focused, where customer satisfaction scores were off the charts in its company. um, uh, it also enables the company through agile, that you have empowered network of empowered teams where there are no hierarchies, and it's a flat organization, and people are able to connect within the company and create a more flat structure. And it creates, through our experiences now, we know that we are able to create tribes and chapters and guilds within different cross departmental teams. Rapid decision making and learning cycles is enables the agile organization to run fast, which enables the digital transformation model to bring the product fast into the market. And dynamic people, obviously, which is with agile, is impossible. The dynamic amount of people that can bring in the type of passion that you would want to be able to enable the organization to function as an agile entity, um, constantly evolving around exactly what the future holds. And as the way the culture is being developed for agile is that, and as an example, we know that Zappos used to pay $4,000 for employees if they were not successful in the onboarding process. So you can imagine how passionate they were to protect their agile environment and not allow people to be able to disrupt their culture. And as I explained earlier, next generation enabling technology was one of the key areas which allows agile to be successful. Digital lab process is something we've uh, the way, when you have that model enabled for you, the way you allow the agile team to function is through understanding that you have to break down the roadmap into um, uh, small chunks of, or the idea, if you want to call it, into a small chunk of backlog. Identify customer journeys with maximum business impact, prioritize journeys to transform and define budget, conduct different design sprints, as we explained earlier, then use those ideas into, convert those ideas into backlog, and then develop those backlog items with respect to with a method called MVP, mostly used across the industry. And then when you, as you're developing these MVPs and using and taking them to your customers, um, look at data points through user testing and present to executive DT council, as we talked about earlier, digital transformation council, who are going to look at the ideas converted into MVP and how those MVP is being accepted by the customers. And if they are customer accepted by the customers, then you take further funding from the council, and that's how the cycle goes. uh, Whenever there is a idea which is not being accepted by the customer, you abandon that idea. An example of looking at MVP, which is important in this process, is, if you go back and look at iPhone was launched without having to be able to receive GPS signals from satellite navigation. That was one of the one of the biggest features that it didn't have. But it was, people look at it as an MVP because it was catering to customers who were looking at phones without having an ecosystem of apps. That was the biggest selling points of iPhone at that time, that it created an ecosystem of apps for users to be able to download and create the phone more in a more smart way, versus having one of those key features at that time where the phone was not able to have receive GPS signals. um, so the product, or the MVP is supposed to address a certain pain point, and not be so barren, not be so probably small or minuscule that it's not addressing a certain pain point, or it probably is a complete product in itself. So MVP is in the middle somewhere, where you're addressing a certain pain point, you're taking it to the customers, and you're testing your idea, and then you are going back to let's say your leadership or digital transformation council, and then taking further funding, and then probably taking the funding towards production. Same as I shared earlier, the example of iApartment, where they gave us the budget for only doing MVP, and we did the MVP in I think 2 months. And when we proved the idea to them using Raspberry Pi, they gave us the funding for creating the entire product, which was obviously many times fold than the MVP budget that we got. Lastly, the most important area for the digital lab to be successful, or this model to be successful, is to be able to understand that how culture is critical for its success, how minds have to be transformed, or a type of team has to be created, an agile team has to be created which adopts a certain culture, and makes the entire journey possible. um, the example here that I'm trying to present is through the type of culture that we knows that has failed to do digital transformation versus the culture that enables digital transformation has created successes. Is the comparison between corporate culture and agile culture, and we think about it as what is versus what needs to be. In a corporate culture, people think in optimizing the existing businesses, versus in agile, the mindset is that building new and innovative products. They want to challenge themselves. Individuals are always challenging themselves, versus risk averse mindset, where people are not taking risks and just following the lines, versus calculated risk taking in agile culture. That's the type of people that the model requires for it to be able to transform or create journeys for digital transformation. Following the processes is very common in corporate culture, versus getting the job done, not thinking and following the lines in agile culture. Mistakes are probably punished at times in corporate culture, but in agile culture, it's common to have failure, and fail fast probably, and be successful. Command and control is common in corporate culture. Top-down hierarchy, where people are controlled through hierarchies, and trust and self-organize is the way agile culture works. Fear of asking questions, versus teams are confident and particularly and participate fully. And slowdowns, making decision making and bureaucratic, versus fast decision making and lean and inclusive. It is a known fact in the industry that agile companies respond faster to crisis. It is also known that organization can do agile by changing their structures, processes, and technology, but they cannot be agile without changing the way people work and interact daily. So it's a culture, it's a mindset, and the mindset and this culture is the behaviors that is being adopted by the people of that uh, model, or that culture, and that is basically led by the leaders by themselves. The behaviors of the leaders, that's how it's going to be adopted. So I wanted to actually close our presentation by sharing an example of how digital transformation is what is the need of R for all these organizations out there. We all know the story of Toys R Us. Mostly, probably some of us would have bought some toys from it as well. Established in 1948, it moved on into the era of 4IR, where digital transformation was happening, and companies were transforming themselves. unfortunately, it didn't do itself. It didn't transform itself. It was late, and that was the time when e-commerce was disrupting businesses across the globe. And eventually we all saw a sad end to this company, where it actually died because it was not ready, or it didn't transform itself, or didn't look at how the industry was transforming, and it had to be able to use the technologies available in the market and transform itself. So with that, I would thank you, all of you, for participating and giving me this opportunity to share our experience of how we have helped companies transform, how we look at digital transformation is possible, and how we as a company can help companies out there transform themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waleed, for a very insightful presentation. And I'm sure the audience has been educated and enlightened in terms of this area of work that your company is doing in Pakistan and also abroad. So now we can move to the audience, and I would request people to raise their hands for any questions that may have, or for any observations. But I would like to start with Mr. Zulfikar Kamal. Zulfikar Saab is working very closely with the embassy, and he has been participating in all our previous tech talks as well. So he is a Danish-born Pakistani individual who has been working in the IT sector for some time. So Zulfikar Saab, I give the floor to you for some observations on this presentation.
Thank you, Ambassador Saab. Very nice and very enlightening presentation indeed. And I must say that, yeah, the whole concept of digitalization and transformation is very important. In the Nordics, we see that a lot. In Denmark, especially, we see a lot of industries that are getting disrupted as well. We see fintech, we have health tech and agrotech, especially here in Denmark, where we see new solutions coming onto the market, and we see customer journeys getting enhanced. So we have actually both of them. We have digitalization of the existing services going on, and we also have new models coming into the market in Denmark. So I thought it was really interesting to see this presentation from a Pakistan company, providing an input to how also with the success story of this company, the American company that was mentioned in this session. My question here would be, can we do something more on the entrepreneurship, where companies can create models to digitalize their existing products and transform new products? And when should one contact a company like yourself in DPL? Do they need an idea? Because there are a lot of people in Denmark here, a lot of entrepreneurs who might be having ideas in how to transform new services. So how can they contact you, and what can you offer them with this whole agile concept in order to improve the journeys? Where do we start?
Well, that's a brilliant question. The starting point, I'm sure, has to be through the the way the company is positioned right now, and how it's being challenged within the industry that it's working in. Most of the companies that we have worked with, either they come with an idea, as I shared the example with iApartments, and with some companies who are struggling to compete with their competitors. Like one of the companies that we worked with was a oil industry giant in Pakistan. They were struggling, being probably the third biggest in Pakistan, and they wanted to basically match the numbers of the first competitor in Pakistan. So they reached out to us, and they were looking at numbers which were declining. Their business model was not creating any type of success, although they had a so-called digital transformation department within them. But as being a corporate company, it's almost impossible to transform yourself or look at how you can use 4IR because you're not a tech company. So they reached out to us, and we, being a technology company, connected with them, shared our ideas with them. They allowed us the privilege to go through their entire all types of customer journeys. Initially, actually, we connected with them through design sprints with their cross-departmental leaders. And through the design sprints, we identified some ideas with them. And with those ideas, we embarked on a journey of the entire company, going from department to department, identify how these journeys were connected within the departments, and then presented them with ideas and how technology can help them transform themselves and compete with their competitors. So yes, a company like us is definitely equipped to help corporations look at how their business model is failing and is not able to use 4IR technologies to transform themselves. And even also with entrepreneurs that we can connect with and help them disrupt a certain industry.
Definitely. Thanks, Waleed Saab. We also have here, we do have the large corporations in Denmark who do have complex products that they need to transform and digitalize within the payment industry or the medical industry, etc. But in Denmark, in the Nordics, we have a culture of entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of labs, and we have a lot of new companies coming into the market who have a lot of ideas and who are experimenting with these emerging technologies, as you mentioned, and then they're trying to solve the problems that are within the society, creating an example of a customer journey. So for them, a design sprint or something that is, to facilitate their thinking process in order to get new customers, new companies on board for the startups. I think that's also a very good entry point into the Nordics, where we have a tradition and a history of entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of labs here, and then that's a part of our the society in Denmark and even Sweden and Norway.
Yeah, that's good to know. Actually, we have been working in the Nordics for some time. One of the countries that we have been able to focus more is Sweden. We've been working in Sweden for almost a decade now, and we are always reaching out to different customers within the Nordic. One of the out of Silicon Valley, Nordic is one of the areas where you can find very amazing and forward-looking entrepreneurs that you can work with and create technology solutions with.
Definitely. Thanks a lot for a very inspiring this session here. Very enlightening, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zulfikar Saab. So next I move to Mr. Junaid. You have a question or observation? Mr. Junaid, can you hear me? If not, we move to Mr. Athar Nawaz.
Thank you very much for such an interesting talk. I just have a question. I would like to know, you provided one really interesting example of collaboration between Pakistan and then the hardware, I think in China, and then in US. I would like to know what kind, so that was a great success story, but what was the challenge? Often we try to, in the end, talk about the success story, and then it also come across quite big challenges. So could you also elaborate a bit about the big challenge in this kind of collaboration that happened? Was the time a big issue, or was there some other challenges that you came across? And then how did you tackle those kind of challenges in a three-way partnership between Pakistan, China, and US?
That's a very good question, actually, particularly when you have to work with Chinese. Americans come from a very different culture altogether. Chinese come from a very different culture, and we obviously have a very different culture. That's the biggest challenge that we faced when we work with people from China. Technically, one challenge that we had to face was time difference. time zone difference. China is a different time zone. We are a different time zone, and the Americans are a completely different time zone. So we had to make sure the collaboration is happening in a time where all these three, parties can meet up. Chinese have a very different way of communicating. They are not very elaborative. They are not very. They don't really believe a lot on collaboration. So you have to really make the collaboration happen with them. So we tried to actually, in some instances, when we were not able to get the type of deep insights, because they were building one side of the technology. So when we were not getting some answers to those technologies, I told my engineers to create direct personal connections with those engineers, so that you can able to actually connect more deeply with them and get those answers out. So yeah, communicating with the Chinese, where they are a little scared, I would say scared of the world, the way they look at the Americans, or even communicate generally with people even from Pakistan. So you have to be a little more aware of getting the communication out. They believe more in documentation. They understand that if you have something on documentation, letter and spirit, that's how you can get the things done. And although that in Agile, documentation is not important, the product or building the software in itself is more important. So there were these sort of challenges that we had to manage around, and we were able to do it successfully. And in sometimes there were not enough success. There were sometimes delays because of this type of collaboration with them.
Just a follow-up question. So it's a bit more practical. So were you also doing the stand-up on those, because the time difference was so big? So how were you managing this kind of stand-ups if there was a practical stand-up?
No, we weren't doing stand-ups with them. It would have been a bigger challenge if we were doing stand-ups with them. But we do stand-ups with let's say Americans in different companies who do require our teams to connect with them. So it is a common practice within our organization. But with this particular example, we weren't doing stand-ups with the Chinese.
Very much.
Very good. So we next have Mr. Kamar Zaman. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Master, and thanks a lot for arranging this really amazing session. It was really interesting to go through all the slides and all the amazing learnings. One observation that I had in Denmark and maybe across the globe, that there are corporates, and there's already culture that is embedded in these corporates. And digital transformation is a wish, that's on the wish list. So my question is that how do you think that it is addressable to these big corporates, not only telling them about the risks that if they do not transform, they're going to die, but how practically is it possible to engage with them and change their existing infrastructure? And from your previous experience working with the company, you mentioned the Agile framework. And if I can ask the learnings from that, well, you had been working with the already established company and offering them this Agile framework. What was the learning?
I think you probably have like three questions within that, so I'll try to remember and answer all of them. In Agile transformation, it's the model that I was able to share with you has a key ingredient which has to be understood, that when we present this model to corporates, we do tell them that think of this as a sister company. Don't think of it as a company which don't think of it as a bunch of people that are going to come to your company and connect with or work with certain departments. Think of it as a separate even room where we bring in the engineers. Let's say even from a company like us, we bring our own engineers in a certain room, create that digital model around those individuals. They should be agile. They should be looking at journeys. They should be they should be using 4IR technologies. And then given the certain budget and the roadmap, they go on and actually transform that company. So it has to be siloed within the company. So when you have that model within that corporate siloed, and when they have that budget and they use one of the customer journeys and create a, let's say, an MVP for that corporate through the customer journey that they identify, then if they have, if that bunch is able to create that success, they present it back to the digital transformation council, which is obviously encapsulated, which includes the leaders of that certain corporate. So through that model, they then decide towards transforming their entire organization themselves. They have to look at that model and see how Agile is creating success in that model. They have to look at how 4IR is creating that success. They have to look at how they have to look at their business model through the vision of customer journeys versus digitalizing their particular department and thinking they're transforming their department. They're not transforming their departments. So this model in itself creates that opportunity for them to either transform their organization through Agile practices, or transform their organization using 4IR, or transform their organization through looking at the entire company through the prism of customer journey. So I think the model in itself provides that opportunity, and the failures on the other end are when you don't do these things. When you create a model and it's not in Agile, it doesn't, let's say the leadership of that corporation says, okay, I'm going to control the shots. I'm going to create a culture where you come to me and ask for decision making. That's not going to help, to transform the company. That's not going to help that model to even succeed. So you have to look at all these particular areas of the journey or the model to be able to make success for itself. Or if you don't do it, then obviously you'll tend towards failures.
Thank you. Zafkar Saab, you have raised your hand again?
Yes, Farooq Saab, I just had a comment. It's very interesting talk that we're having here. So Waleed Saab is putting in some really great insights here. And I can add to that, I can say that, the schisma here in Denmark is also that some companies, they are reluctant to change because they might lose resources. There might be resources within the company who have been working there for a long time. And once they try this, they taste this agile practice, then they don't want to go back to their, the old jobs that they had. They want to do more of this type of project-based jobs. And then the companies, they might lose them. So there's also a little bit of fear of that, of changing too much too quick. And then we also have the culture problem, because this brings a different culture with itself. And then you have people within a company who are, part of a different culture, and then you have the old culture. So how do companies have entertain these two cultures? Do we put the agile teams, that are producing results and changing, disrupting, making customer journeys? Do we put them physically somewhere else? And then we have the old organization working parallel in the old headquarters, and then that organization is getting disrupted. So it also puts some fear in the organization. Okay, we are getting disrupted step by step. We are getting maybe fired, and then you have people. So there are a lot of soft cultural issues as well. And then you have the women in this, the women who would like to have work security, work safety, to work in a corporate environment. And then, they are the ones who are also a minority group in this, because the way this works is it can also create some fear within, the women who don't want to go out and be having their own company, but would like to work in a corporate culture. And this is introducing entrepreneurship into a corporate culture, if you're understanding what I'm saying, Waleed Saab. So that was just my insight and comment to this. I think it's very interesting and fruitful talk we are having here.
Yeah. I'll add a small comment here. When we started upon our own journey in 2012, when we provided solutions to one of the cultural challenges that we were having in Pakistan, because we had to serve Silicon Valley clients, and our culture was risk averse. They were the type of people who would say yes sir and not ask questions. So we presented an antidote to that culture. And believe me, most of our senior leadership resigned because they wanted to stay back in their, the way they thought the norms were happening in the company, and they connected those norms as how they are going to be looking at their future and their careers. And although they didn't have that vision at that time, that it was necessary for us to transform our own company so that we can serve the clients who didn't, had flat organization, who didn't have corporate hierarchies, or didn't think about people they wanted to hire, where they were just dumbstruck by things given to them, and nobody was asking questions. So our culture right now is totally the opposite of that, where we bring in resources who ask questions, who make even clients nervous. That's the type of agile culture that you need to have to be able to work with companies out there in Silicon Valley and Europe.
Well, thank you very much. We've had a very interesting session with a very excellent presentation by Mr. Waleed Rayas, which was followed up by an interactive session of observations and questions from the participants. So we've had a very good tech talk today. The video of this tech talk would be posted on the YouTube page of the embassy. So this would be available for viewing later. And we will be sharing this also through the embassy's social media widely within Denmark. So once again, I would like, first of all, to thank Mr. Waleed Rayas for all the effort that he has put in today's session, and also all the participants for sharing your time in joining us. The last in the series of our 5 tech talks would be in the month of December, and we will soon announce the date for it. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day. Goodbye.